Chairman, we're live.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. We're in the afternoon session of July 8th. Our next agenda item is an action item. This is presentation from Clearwater Financial on our updated master facility plan. Jason, I'll turn it over to you and we'll see where it goes.
All right. Excited to be on with you again and go through the final updates on the master's facility plan. And I'll share my screen just to review. It's been a little bit since we initially presented the MFP update to you. And one of the big takeaways was getting some clarity on kind of the direction of potential administrative space at the county and how that fits into the courthouse as a priority of the MFP. Let me share my screen. And I'll walk through the updates. Oh, it's nice to have the screen there. I can see when it's coming through or not. That's kind of handy.
Yeah, we got it on our end.
All right. So starting on page 16 of the PDF is the first section has to do with the roads and bridge building, and the update for that section is pretty straightforward as you're already moving forward with the construction. Design and construction of the new building out on the Gold Dust property. And then once that's completed, then you'll have that space on the fairgrounds. So this is the same language that was presented prior, no new updates there, and things are pretty much moving forward as planned previously.
Hey, Jace.
Yeah.
On the Gold Dust building, have we got, I know they got building permit because they're starting to dig the hole for the foundation, but have we got a bid yet from any contractor or anything putting this facility together?
It's a great question. We have not been involved in that bidding process. I don't know the answer to that.
We've hired inside architects. They're doing all that. So you could reach out to inside
Through
architects.
Insight?
Yeah. Or just reach out to Dan and.
We need to get some information on that, see where we're at.
So, commissioners, I can provide you with some insight on that if you want to know now, or if you want to postpone that for a later date.
We can do that on a later day. You can go ahead.
So Jace, on this plan, because we know that our number one now will have been, check the box. Does that then come off the plan next year and we reprioritize the next plan? Is that?
Yep. Yeah, as you go through each step and once it is completed, then you would reprioritize. And if you had anything, either, they'd just move up to the next one, or if anything changed and maybe something leapfrogs, that could happen as well. But once the building's built, road and bridges moved on, then you check that off and remove it from as a priority on the plan.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. The next priority was the courthouse. And the update is a little bit vague in description, but essentially allowing the county, or the plan is to move forward with alternative space rather than a county courthouse remodel at this point in time. And with the opportunity in the Marititle building to have that space available for expansion. And so with that purchase, it would be moving forward with site layout, potential, design of any remodeling needs, and how the transition could be put in place for using that to meet the space needs that you have for the courthouse. And then being able to take a fresh look at the space that's left and what you would do with the space in the courthouse once using the Marititle building area. So still remaining number two and moving forward at the same time.
So you did put in that we will be evaluating the space here because we were just, discussing lightly the fact that the north end needs to be taken down. So is that identified in this plan at all, that we will be removing a portion of it? And reevaluating how to improve the remaining space.
Yeah, so that would come after the analysis of kind of the space plan layout of the Maritidal building, and once you know what departments would fit, what would be available, and then looking back at the courthouse for the sections, the older sections of the courthouse, what could be still used or maybe demolished.
Okay, so not number two. That will be somewhere else in this plan as we move forward.
It would be included in this one.
It would be.
But we can add some additional language to the update if you'd like.
I think we should, because that's really, I mean, it is important that we get everybody moved to the Ameritidal building and do that layout. But we also need to be looking, I mean, it's not gonna be 2 or 3 years, and we're gonna be looking at needing to relocate a lot of the infrastructure that comes into this building from the outside to keep this building in place.
Mhm.
And kind of critical need is, getting that north end down. I think we all think it's sinking because we're having issues with the front step and more issues with the building department, so.
Yeah, and I think what we're thinking is that this transition plan would incorporate some of that under the analysis of the courthouse as a facility need.
Okay.
But we could add some language to that if you'd like as well. All right. Any other questions on the courthouse?
Many, but unfortunately, they're not answered in a plan.
Well, and if there's outstanding questions that need some more clarity, we can definitely add that. And the plan may not necessarily have all of the specific details to the answers, but definitely provide the direction for addressing those questions. But yeah, if there's more questions that you'd like to go through, we can do that.
This is our transparency with the community. And so I think it's important that we share that, yes, the Ameritidal building is going to give us, maybe a 10-year window, 5 to 10-year window, but it's not the end of the conversation. And so I think, at the same time, we need to be evaluating this building and future ongoing needs so that the community doesn't think that this is the solution to everything. This was our one-time solution to a short-term need. And from there, we've got to continue down the path to figure out how we retrofit, renovate, what else we're going to have to add onto this building. So I think being transparent, there needs to be something in that update that we continue to work toward, a longer-term solution, including the existing building, but potentially excavating part of it and, whether we add on here or not. It's still going to be an ongoing conversation in the next couple of years.
Yeah, no, that's a great point because you do have some significant facility or structural challenges with the older portions of the courthouse that came out in the process. So,
and we're still not
need to be addressed.
Yeah, we're not solving long term. Really, the prosecuting attorney's office. That the Ameritidal building might be great if we could get them back here closer to the courts, but this building is going to have a lot of work. We're not solving the issue of a commissioner's room for public hearings.
Yep.
So there's still a significant number of issues to address.
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll add some clarity that a lot of the information still in the original part of the courthouse still needs to be addressed. This is just one step of the process.
Okay, thank you.
Great questions. The fairgrounds and the update with the fairgrounds. You do have the arena that was purchased, and so the fair board's working on coming up with a plan. And inside the plan, what we discussed prior is some community involvement in what the layout is, what is going to be used on that, or what resources and facilities could be put on that land for the fair, and having ultimately a planning effort with the fair board and determining what that looks like Um, and so that's that process. It's in conversations. It sounds like this process is probably going to, the arena is already being replaced, but this kind of larger planning community involvement effort will begin likely later on this year into the first of next calendar years, not fiscal years, but calendar years. And then also that'll give an opportunity for Roads and Bridge to move, and then it frees up those buildings that are existing there and kind of open up what can be done with those, whether they're repurposed or moved or maybe taken down depending on the building to best use that site. So really kind of focusing on interacting with the community, getting their feedback and making the most out of that fairgrounds property. And those were the three main updates from the plan. The other items still remained on the list, but not in the priorities, with those top three being the focus of the county right now. We did have some updates. I'll scroll down. Sorry if this makes you sick a little bit as it's moving super quick. To the CFP side of the process, we did have some update in the cost on the road and bridge department, the building there, and the budgeting process to be able to, the funds available to use to pay for that. There's a estimated 1.2 million from its budget to complete that project. And there was an update on the fairgrounds for the CFP side to again going around there, centered around the focus of getting a committee together to involve that community feedback. So those were the main updates. Everything else is you know, still I guess intact from the original MFP. It was a pretty quick first year review just from the timing of when it was approved to getting it back and looking at it. But just a kind of reminder that the idea with that and the process is to get the annual updates done in the spring before the budgeting process, so that it helps, you know, Doug in his budget preparation and you as your budget approval process. If there's changes from a facility standpoint, you're aware of those and going through and preparing each annual budget for the next year. So
So
with
Jason,
that, or
I have a question for you. So the county has a few properties that have value. And the reason that I think that we need to remain focused on, you know, long-term solutions is if there may become a moment in time where it makes sense to sell some of these other assets that are available to us, to either have a conversation about some housing that the county would participate in or other county functions that we might want to invest in. Or, because we've identified the 3/4 acres in the back as, you know, long-term potential for a courthouse expansion back there. That's a huge investment. And that, you know, I would just like to maybe have a planning meeting, have something.
Over here.
Yeah. To talk about, because Elk got a phone call that somebody wanted to buy the senior center. You know, I don't know that that's a horrible idea. It's that we could use those assets to either remodel this building and move forward in the development of this building. Maybe sell off, you know, some of those other little pieces of ground that we have out there, that we have one in McCall. There's a few other pieces that we might be able to move down the road a little bit on doing some of the work on this courthouse. I guess that's what I'm thinking about, is just in the short term. We don't have to make decisions today. We don't have to make them next year, you know, but at what moment in time do we make a decision that these are non-performing assets for us? It might be time to liquidate some of these and then improve the assets that we have. And so I think as we're doing that courthouse planning, it's a greater conversation on looking at the existing assets and which ones we should keep, which ones we should liquidate, to allow us to accomplish some of these other things.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great thoughts, and I think that you're spot on in analyzing those as it relates to remodeling the courthouse. The nice thing with the MFP is it does lay out where those would fit in, the ones that would be used, and so that can be part of your decision making process. Is for example, the sheriff's expansion is the value to save that land for future expansion in the MFP, or liquidating it now? Does that make more sense? And then potentially having to find space in the future. And that's just an example of that specific piece of property, but looking at your other pieces of property too, how they fit. Do they have in the priority list? Where are they? If they don't fall on anything, any use that is in your MFP, then yeah, it should be considered something that could potentially be surplus property, liquidated, and used for expanding or remodeling or for the upgrading the conditions of your current facilities.
Well, this is how it would seem to me like if you're going to go down that road, you would be better off to sell parcels that are not of any kind of city services, sewer and water, because you need those kind of parcels for, more dense development, whether it's sheriff's offices or employee housing or whatever that issue. Instead of selling that, I would think you would want to go down to like the piece that we own at the bottom of Round Valley, that 9 acres down there on the curve. That would be, to me, smart to sell that than something right next to your campus here.
But if we were to sell the senior center and invest those funds and work with a land developer to create potential for office space and apartments above it, then that satisfies two goals. One, housing, but the other is a long-term solution for additional office spaces we needed.
Well, and you
And-
got to keep in the back of your mind that you can't just list something and sell it. Government has to auction it off.
We wouldn't do that. We would partner with someone to create the same thing you did at the
Like
Springs. in
housing, you
McCall.
mean, or something
Yeah.
like that.
Same thing you did in McCall. You find that
Mhm.
developer that has, some ideas for housing and maybe office space. But then in the back of my mind too, I'm thinking the McCall Annex, when you talk about the sheriff's office, they probably should be able to put a few people up at that McCall Annex if we were to build that. And so, I mean, that the senior center's value